remember the way we used to move, dance all night like young lovers do. Your heart is changing. Now we don't dance like we used to. Silent disco on the floor, baby. Mr. DJ, he'll get me through. When the beat's gone, you can't save me, baby.
This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Good morning and welcome to Broad Radio. I'm Jo Stanley, and with me, it's a day of firsts, our very first time with co-host Mignon Stewart. Good morning, Min.
Good morning, Jo. So lovely to be here on Broad Radio. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you've good manners.
It's a good way to start. Don't know how we'll end up.
That's true. Also, though, today it's our very first time in our own studio. It's the first time we're coming to you live from Broad Radio HQ. It's a super big achievement for us, Min, because let me see, it's episode 60-something.
8.
Hey, well done, you.
68. One of us is onto it.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess 68 episodes ago, we were in my house. Then we had a lovely transition time at Castaway Studios, and now we've moved into this, and it's a big step forward for us to be able to now broadcast anytime, anywhere. Through 24/7, we could be coming to you live.
That is fabulous. And behind the scenes, it looks very professional. It looks like you know what you're doing. So
thanks.
It's a good start.
It is. So, Min, I should say we've got an amazing show coming up. We have Dr. Nikki Stamp, who is one of only 11 female heart surgeons in Australia. Incredible woman. So she'll be joining us later in the show. We're going to be talking about women in hot cars.
That is a subject dear to my heart. I'm not saying I'm a hot woman, but I had hot cars.
Yeah. And in just a moment also we're going to be speaking about the fight for reproductive rights that's taking place in the United States at the moment, which is it is terrifying what we're seeing happening over there.
It certainly is. It's deeply concerning. It's unbelievable that America is in this position of looking at repealing the Roe and Wade.
It's terrifying because what does it mean for them, for women in the States, but for the rest of the world as well. So if you are following us right now, watching live, we would love it if you joined us on, the socials and shared your comments and questions along the way.
You're so trendy, Jo.
I know.
Socials. Get on board.
And if at any point you'd like to catch up with any previous episodes, you can do that with Broad Radio on the Go, our podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. But first, let's learn a little about you, Min, because I recall you being a journo.
Yes.
How
I still
long
like
ago?
to call myself a journo.
Yes, I mean, that we would see you on the telly.
Yes. On the telly. So I began in 1994 with first job ABC Radio, Kempsey, New South Wales, all the way from Perth. That was a big move across the country, away from home, the apron strings. And so, but then I spent pretty much, I went to Channel 10 pretty quickly after that. So I had 11 years with Channel 10 and then 8 years with ABC. But a lot of those 8 years I wasn't seen as such in Melbourne because I was the news presenter and producer to ABC Asia.
Right.
So I was mobbed anywhere in Asia. I wasn't.
You were big in the Philippines.
Huge. Trips to Bali took on a whole new form. But no, 11 years essentially on the road with Channel 10 and then ABC for 8 years.
And in recent years, though, you've been living overseas?
Yes, moved to Washington, D.C. My husband is, it works for the Australian newspaper and he was the USA correspondent in DC during Trump's years. So it was completely fascinating and fabulous and deeply concerning and alarming and all of those fun things at once.
So let me tell you, this has been an interesting thing for me with Broad Radio, is that because as I'm just exploring all the incredible women that we can have on the show, and as we grow our, radio network, which eventually will be a 24/7 network, I'm like, who's out there doing interesting things, right? Oh. And the amount of women that I'm discovering who I remember when, and have sort of moved on from that full-time journalism or radio kind of career and now are doing other things. But I'm excited to draw you back.
Yeah, it's
to
great.
Be on the airwaves.
It's good to sort of, take a baby step back into being on air. It has been some time. I couldn't work in the US because of visa restrictions, which sort of suited me. I was working full-time up until the day we sort of flew out. And then to arrive in, the land of Oz, it was just, being the US as in a foreign land with all bells and whistles I wasn't familiar with. It was fabulous to not be able to work, to settle my child into school, settle my husband into work, settle me into the tennis club. That's a lie. I don't play tennis. But to just explore the city, explore the US, it's just such a wild and different country. It's so different.
Yeah. I think it's valuable to us that you're here with us today, because our first guest is talking about what is happening in the States at the moment with the reversal of, or the threat.
Potential
reversal of Roe v.
After the draft was leaked from the Supreme Court to potentially repeal Roe versus Wade, which, is deeply concerning. And I know my friends in Washington, D.C. and other parts of the states are apoplectic about the possibility of this and the grave danger it leaves many, many thousands, millions of women in certain states of America. So,
is it? Give us a sense of what it's like in America, though, because I look at that and go, could it be a threat here in Australia? But you're telling me that it's a very different kind of...
It's a very different culture.
Society.
Very different. I mean, they're much more conservative in the US in general. It's such a divisive issue, whereas to me, abortion rights are just not on the radar here at all. And if they are, they're shouted down pretty quickly. And yes, there are some fringe people that have their strong beliefs, and that's fine. It's just, I guess, when it comes to a political issue and decisions. But it's concerning, as we're seeing in the States. But I don't think it'll ever get to that point here, because the majority rules that we accept a woman's right to do what she wants with her body. So whereas in the US it's very different. They're much more conservative, much more religious, much more evangelical in many states. It's a different beast altogether.
Well, let's cross to Washington, D.C., because I know that for myself and a lot of the people people in my circle have been watching on with great fear and concern for women's reproductive rights in the States. And over the weekend, thousands marched across the United States calling for bodily autonomy in a Bands Off Our Bodies Day of Action. And one woman who marched in Washington, D.C. is filmmaker Rachel Feichter, and she joins us. Hi there, Rachel.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Min.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
You come to us via Min because you're good mates.
I do. Yeah.
Yes.
We've known each other like almost the whole time you were here, kind of.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate that we met quite early in our posting. So 6 years, I guess, we've known each other. So,
Rachel,
I can't believe it.
Sorry, tell us for Australians who may have read the headlines but aren't really quite across what has sparked these marches and this incredible anger, which we support you in, we stand in solidarity with you in this. But can you explain what the threat is to the current abortion freedoms in America?
Yeah, sure. So I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. Basically, the most important thing for you to know is for the last almost 50 years, women have had the right to have an abortion. Up to about 24 or 25 weeks. Roe v. Wade back in 1973 established a woman's right to, the states could not put any sort of limitations on abortions after the 23 or before the 23-25 week. Roe v. Wade was upheld in 1992 with the Casey court. Although in that decision, they did say that states could, for a better word, put roadblocks up, right? So beginning in 1982, you have states saying you have to wait 24 hours. You have to be shown a sonogram, things like that. So now Dobbs comes in, which was the case from Mississippi, which was, I think it started in 2020, and you've got a very conservative court. And shockingly, I mean, I can't even tell you, I feel like a lot of American women were going into a rabbit hole of despair about this, because it is very, very, like 99% they're going to overturn Roe. I don't know what other people thought, but never did I think they were going to overturn Roe. I thought they were going to put limits on it. I thought they were going to have like some sort of, the compromise was going to be 15 weeks, right? So you're still going to be able to have an abortion up to 15 weeks, but not beyond 15 weeks. And that in itself would have been terrible, right? Because it's still a fetus. It still can't live outside its mom. But I'm still trying to get my head around the fact that we are not going to have Roe v. Wade, and that it is unfathomable to me that my daughters, I have a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, that they are going to grow up with fewer rights than I did. That's we're all trying to come to terms with right now. And I mean, I still remember, like, I got the ding on my phone, about the leak. I thought I was dreaming. I mean, we're still, I think we're all walking around going, oh my God, this is going to happen. It is a draft. I want to say it is a draft, right? But it is, and this, to my knowledge, and a lot of people say a draft like this has never been leaked, right? But if you read the draft is just devastating. I mean, it's devastating. From everything I've read, sorry to interrupt you, Rachel, but it is a leak of, it's a draft, but from everything I've been reading, that it doesn't look like much will change from that draft. It'll be on the margins if it does. It does look, as you say, I think you said 99%. Yeah. But that doesn't. I mean, I can't see. Yeah, there's no way. I can't see, like, Kavanaugh's not going to change. Amy Coney Barrett's not going to change. Alito is definitely not going to change, and Thomas isn't going to change. So I don't know where that leaves us. I think that leaves us with almost half the states are going to have either no abortion, like 0, or extreme, like the Texas law where they have 6 weeks. Although Texas is going to, when the ruling comes down, they're going to ban abortion too completely.
It is that sense of complete despair and outrage that another person might take away a power of yours and autonomy of your body. Like, it's hard to fathom that. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I don't think there's ever been a time where the Supreme Court has taken away a well-established right. And Alito, in his decision, he quotes, like, I think 16th, 17th century jurists. He thinks that there's no sort of history here. Well, 50 years is 2 generations. 50 years is history. And I don't think, women are not going to go back. I mean, it's going to be hell. But we're not going to go back. We're not going to go down without a fight. I'll tell you that for free.
But I guess in real terms, Rachel, it means that if it goes ahead, which it looks like it'll be announced at the end of June, you'll know where America sits on Roe v. Wade. But if it does go ahead, it's my understanding is that 13 states will immediately make abortion illegal. Yep, and then another 13 states will follow quickly. So that's 26 states outlawing it pretty quickly. So what does that mean for and we're talking the southern Midwest states, so what does that mean for a poor African-American girl in Alabama?
It means that in real terms, it means that she has a higher risk of dying during pregnancy. It means that her economic and her education and her life choices are unbelievably cut in half. Oh, no, not cut in half. I mean, she's already poor, or she's very close to poverty level. That's going to be devastating. It means you're going to have a country of the have and the have-nots. Like you're going to have the abortion haves and the abortion have-nots. Right, exactly. It's going to be
more extreme. Yeah.
I mean, what the other thing is, it is getting, there's a possibility that a miscarriage could be a crime scene. Think about that. Think about, you have a miscarriage, you go to the hospital, and then the doctor and the nurses have to become freaking police officers, right?
It's
you just go down the rabbit hole of what the possibility could be. Roe is a precedent upon a precedent, which means that it is really well-established law. It really centered on the right to privacy, right? Okay. We have many Supreme Court decisions based on that right to privacy, like the ability for married couples to choose when to have contraception, the privacy and liberty, gay marriage. Let's see what there were some other. I mean, there are many, and it's just terrifying.
So it could set a precedent to affect many other laws.
Yeah.
And what is really can I just say one thing? I'm sorry. Just what is really terrifying are states like I think it's Louisiana. Louisiana is having a law trying to get passed that life begins at conception, right? So if life begins at conception, you can't have birth control. I mean, that stops, right? So we're all like, oh man.
Because the thing that deeply concerns me is that obviously this doesn't mean that abortions won't happen in those states. They will still happen. They'll just be backyard, illegal, very dangerous.
Women will die.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, women will die.
And
women will die. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. The numbers also are deeply alarming in that if those 26 states shut down abortion, that women of reproductive age, there's 36 million of reproductive age in those states that won't allow abortions. So
right. I mean, it's unfathomable to me. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. I think right now, honestly, we're all sort of still in a state of shock. I can feel my friends. I can feel, kind of the momentum moving towards anger, and pissed off women are a force to be reckoned with.
Yes. Well, Rachel, let's go to the fight, because over the weekend, the Bands Off Our Bodies Day of Action took place. You were in Washington, D.C. These are your images, actually. That's your video that you shot there. Can you share with us some of the people that you met on the day and what the mood was like?
Yeah, well, I was really glad to see there were a lot of mothers and daughters out there. Mothers my age, middle age, with daughters in their teenage years, which was hopeful. There were a lot of very old women out there with that sort of look of like, are you kidding me? We're doing this again. The mood was, it was very angry. There were a lot of really angry people. And actually, the turnout was much better than I thought it was going to be, because it was bad weather and it was sort of quickly organized. I feel like the momentum, I feel like people are still in a little bit of state of shock, to be honest with you. Like, holy hell, what are we going to do?
So this is the beginning of the fight, though, you say?
Right. I will say this, the mood. So I was at the Women's March in 92. I was there in, I think there's been several, but the big one was in 92. And then there was another one in 2016 for abortion rights. And the mood there for the women is a little bit different. It used to be our choice, like abortion is our choice, right? And now they're a little bit like, screw you. This is about bodily autonomy. Because if we say, it's our choice, that choices can be taken away. But if we say this is about what we get to choose, what happens to our bodies, like that is full personhood, right? Yeah. That's full personhood. And that is what the 14th Amendment was about, which is what all this was guaranteed for.
Yes, we've actually had a lot of women on our social media who are actually sharing that, I have no words. I had an abortion. If this right was taken away from me, my life would be different, more difficult perhaps, happier. I will never know, but I had the choice. That's from Stacey. There are so many women saying women will die to be held to ransom on religious beliefs that you have no ties to. I mean, it is really shocking. And I read this incredible, sometimes it takes someone to just really use one sentence and an analogy to kind of frame it in a way that's really obvious. And I read this fantastic thing where it said, by law, no one can force you to donate a kidney. No one can force you to, give blood. No one can force you to donate sperm. And even as afterlife, you can't be forced to be farmed for your organs, right? You're to donate your organs. But effectively, this is making women have less power than a corpse, because you
than a dead person.
Than a dead person.
Oh. Yeah.
Like it's true though, right?
Yeah. That's
it is. No, it's totally true. Oh. And I heard somebody say a 16-year-old cannot adopt a child. I mean, we would think that was ludicrous. You can't adopt a child at 16. But they're going to force them to have a child.
Oh, yeah. That's... And also, Rachel, what's deeply concerning to me, and I know it will be to you and many people in DC because it's so Democrat, but this is such a legacy of President Trump, isn't it? That, I mean, this I shouldn't open that can of worms. This is exactly right. I mean, Trump will be one happy man.
The only reason... Right. And also the Dobbs, there's something that the Dobbs decision that was brought by Mississippi.
Republicans.
Yeah, the case that's now being decided, right? They held on to that until they figured out that they had the votes in the Supreme Court. So it is just I'm actually kind of shocked how much fight women still have left in them after having gone through the last 5 years of Trump.
Oh no, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but this is a trigger topic that would get. Well, and 70% of Americans support Roe v. Wade, so that's the other thing, that the majority of Americans support it, and yet it's still looking highly likely that it'll be repealed. So
yeah.
Well,
and I mean the stat. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go. No, you go.
No, I mean the stats. 25% of women have had abortion. 6 out of 10 already have children. 50% are at poverty level, and another 25% are pretty close. I mean, you're going to have, and of course we have very little social, like a social welfare. Safety net here for welfare, right? So it's just going to be a nightmare.
Yeah,
diabolical.
Well, Rachel, we are across the seas standing with you in solidarity and for what that's worth. We have women on our social media right now saying, I cannot believe we still have to have these conversations. Why do men still think they have the knowledge and right to tell us what we can or can't do with our bodies?
I mean, some women, in fairness, some women agree with this as well in America. Yes. It's not all men. But
they do. You're right. It is. But it's mostly men leading the legislative
it is mostly the male, pale and stale brigade.
Yeah. And it's the man who wrote the decision, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess our hearts are breaking because we understand the rage that you feel when power is taken from you. And, we just... we're just watching and sending our support from over the seas as much as we can, even though that feels like a really empty thing to say. But
no, it means a lot. It really means a lot because it means a lot that most women realize how ridiculous this is and how it's just. I don't know. Maybe in a couple of months I'll have more words to put around it, but it's just so frustrating.
Yeah,
incredibly.
All right, we're sending you love. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank
Washington.
you so much for listening.
Keep up the good fight, Rachel.
Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, darling. Bye.
See you.
With my respiratory issues, I know I have to quit smoking. and quitting before I'm 40 means I'll live up to 9 years longer. What will your future hold when you quit? Make your next quit attempt at Chemist Warehouse.
Broad Radio. Talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis? We've got you covered.
Existential.
Broad Radio. Here for more.
Well, I have to say, Mim, we do cover all different topics here on Broad Radio.
Well, it's broad.
It's true.
Broad topics.
That's right, love.
For broads.
That was a very, it's hard to kind of fathom how hard that conversation is and how hard that fight is for our sisters in the States.
Yes.
So let's take a breather and talk about something a little lighter. And we're about to introduce our next guest, who is, we'll get to Tracey in just a moment, but she's a lover of cars, classic cars,
yes,
on the road, and you yourself also.
Yes, I was, I still am a lover of cars. I'm just sadly have to be a bit more practical now. But yes, my first car was a Valiant VG, 1971, big white girl, 3 on the tree, the bench seat, the vinyl, and that was in Perth. So you can imagine 42-degree summer's day, no aircon, melting into the bench seat, no seat belts, but living the dream.
Yeah.
So
my first car was a 1975 Toyota Corolla, lime green.
Lime green,
yes,
nice.
I called it Kermie.
Yes.
And similarly, melt into the seats. Yeah. Horrific in summer. Oh. But I recall the freedom I felt when I first got my licence,
Absolutely.
which was a week out from my 18th birthday. Went on my birthday.
Early.
Well, I failed on my birthday. That's my number one tip. Never do the licence test on your birthday because it really ruins your 18th.
Yeah, it could be a big downer.
But a week later I did get it, and it was just that freedom of like, oh my God, I am my own person. Yes. I can go anywhere. What a glorious that feeling that is.
Yes.
Yes. And I can't understand. There are people out there who won't get their licence, and I think what a shame.
I know. And I know. Please explain. I don't understand that. I, like you, got mine on around my 18th birthday. My sister, older sister, 3 years older, she didn't get hers till about 28 or 29. My mum didn't ever drive. We never had a car in the family, and I didn't have a dad. So there was no car in our family at all.
Wow.
Ever. So I was just, give me a car. Yes. So I worked really hard on the wheat bins, earned good money the hard way, hard yakka, and paid $1,500 cash for the Valiant, drove out of there like, Thelma and Louise. Woohoo! Look out, world. And, just looked at my sister going, what planet are you on? How have you not done this 3 years ago? And it was just a game changer. I remember Mum and I could go grocery shopping, and we never had ice cream in the house because by the time Mum got the ice cream, got on the bus,
yes,
got back to the house, no ice cream, all melted.
Wow.
So it meant we could have ice cream. And I could buy, the cat food and
so
heavy things.
This is amazing because I grew up without a father also, but my mum did have a car, which meant that we could do things.
Yes,
you know, on weekends we had no money, right?
Yes,
so we would
same.
literally go, okay, what do? We'll go for a drive because petrol was cheap back then, right? So we would get in the car and we would just go for a drive.
How
that was
liberating.
the activity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get that because we didn't have that. We just sat at home. Or we got the bus somewhere. But a Perth girl, and I never once went to the beach as a girl. Ever.
Wow.
Perth, the best beaches in Australia.
Because no car.
Because no car. By the time we got to the beach, we'd melted. It was just not in our psyche. We had to get 2 buses to the beach, 2 buses back. So by the time you got back, you were crusty and over it.
You needed to go back.
Yeah, you just forget
exhausted. But so my mum kind of taught us, She was the first feminist I knew, my mum, and she taught us the freedom of transport, of being able to go, you know what, I'm my own person. I will get myself there. She also taught us how to change a tyre so that you weren't stuck anywhere.
Oh, right.
As well.
No, I'm screwed on that front.
You had a classic car.
I know.
You need to be able to fix it.
You know what? I was thinking about my classic car moments. And then because after that Valiant, I got another Valiant and a S-Series, like the deluxe model. But naughty me, cheeky, whenever I would drive anywhere and I'd just get the Rockstar car, like an illegal, not a car park, just the side of the road, I'd just put up the bonnet and go shopping. How naughty. I would just do the old bonnet. Because it was an old 1962 S-Series Valiant, no parking inspector's going to doubt that it's having a dodgy day. So I'd come back, all on my shopping or whatever, have a long lunch with the girls or whatever. Obviously not drink driving, but, I would go and do whatever I wanted, come back, put the boot down, hop in, drive away. Nothing wrong with the car.
You are, that is innovation right there. Nice. Creativity. Yeah, I love it.
Exactly.
Well, I'm loving this conversation about classic cars. So let's welcome to the show. She is a documentary filmmaker and the founder of Old Girls on the Road, a creative project about women and classic cars. Welcome, Tracey Walker.
Good morning. Hi.
Hi, Tracey.
Oh, wow. When we are talking about Old Girls on the Road, of course, we're not talking about the women. We're talking about the cars. What is so special about a classic car to you?
Just the style, all the chrome and it's just, no plastic.
Yeah, they're certainly the real deal, aren't they? Even the sound of the doors closing.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Love it. What sort of car, what
Exactly.
car do you have now, Tracey?
I have a Valiant, a VC Valiant, so a 1967 VC Valiant. She's turquoise, and prior to that, I've only had her about 2 years, but prior to that, I had a 1967 Mark II Cortina. And that was, you were talking about 3 on the tree and bench seats and all that. So that was a pretty cool little car, but I wanted to get an automatic because I'm getting a little bit of arthritis in my fingers. And it was 3 on the tree. So I got this Valiant. And I just love it. Out on the road, it's just brrr.
Can I ask?
It's great.
So, Tracey, firstly, I would like to make the point that I love driving a manual car also. And these days, people don't drive them by choice that often.
No, I know.
Never.
My husband's like, I can't, because we've still got like a crappy old Mazda that we've had forever. Clearly not a classic car, but it's a manual. And my husband's like, I can't wait till we can get an automatic. And I'm like, I love that feeling of shifting gears.
I do too.
Driving.
I do until I get on the hill.
And I love 3 on the
I
tree.
Like a hill. Yeah, I love that. That feeling is so...
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
It's like you're giving it a bit of extra grunt by doing this.
Why can't they make modern cars with 3 on the tree?
Well, because no one wants to drive that. They don't want to have to actively understand how to. I was like, I like manipulating the engine. So, but my question to you is, Tracey, what actually classifies as a classic car? Like, if I'd kept my 1975 Toyota Corolla, would that still be? Would that be considered a classic car?
That's a good question.
Because maybe that's not cool enough.
I asked that question of Laurie Lee, who's the director of producer and director of Greasefest, which is one of the biggest classic cultures, retro cultures, and she said chrome bumpers, which I really like, but for Old Girls on the Road, I say anything over 35 years old. But when we were talking to Laurie Lee, I think, I don't know whether I'd got rid of my Toyota Camry by that stage. So I said, a Toyota Camry is never going to cut it. And she just went, no.
Because Kermie had chrome bumpers for sure. I think if I'd kept him, he would have been.
What was yours? A 75 Corolla?
Toyota Corolla.
Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Corollas are great.
Yeah.
Toyotas are amazing, really. They just keep on going.
I sold that car to pay for my wedding dress.
Are you serious?
Which I still have the wedding dress, and I'm still married.
Have the husband?
Yes.
Winner.
Oh, that's okay then.
It is. So, okay, you tell us about your project, Old Girls on the Road.
So it started in 2016 because I was planning on having a 50th birthday for my Mark II Cortina the next year. And I had to go about finding people to invite to this party. So I wanted, initially it wasn't necessarily women, but somewhere along the way I decided, oh no, we'll have it as women. And so I had the party, and I just started chatting to these women, and by virtue of the fact that they're a bit of a minority, because 85% of classic car owners are males, so the rest, 15%, are females. So they're a minority. And I just love kind of the rat baggery of them all. They all had these amazing stories. And I used to get them to fill in a questionnaire. And if I got goosebumps when I was reading their answers to my questions, I'd write their name down. Okay, I'm going to pursue this woman. And, I'm a bit of a storyteller. I've been a writer in days gone by. And I just wanted to tell some of their stories. So my little 10-minute videos are as much about the women as they are about the cars. I talk to them, and we focus on what it means to them to have this classic car and what they love about it. And you were talking before about the freedom of getting out on the road and being able to do what go where you want, do what you want. And that's a resounding thing with all the women I speak to. And so that's how it started. And I did the documentary because I'd pitched the idea of a documentary to a few places and sort of not got anywhere. And I'd worked in the film and TV industry, so I knew how kind of competitive it was to get funding and all that sort of thing. And I also knew how many hoops you had to jump through even when you did get funding. And I thought, no, I just want to do this on my own. So I managed to get a crew, and the crew was 7 of us. 5 of them females. The 2 males were assistants. So we went out every weekend for about 5 months and filmed, in the end it was 13 episodes, because I spoke to, as like a trailer, I did talk to Laurie Lee, the Greasefest producer. And so nearly every weekend for 5 months we went out filming, and then began the editing. And while we were doing it, the premise of the series was we were going out to do photo shoots for a calendar. So we produced the calendar in conjunction with the YouTube series.
Yeah, the calendar is beautiful. The photos are amazing. It's I particularly stunning. Love Fran, who is Ms. November, who, there she is with her 1953 Morris Grub. That car's name is Grub, who she's had for 62 years. She's had that car.
She is an amazing woman. And as you said before, the Old Girls is about the cars, not the women. But we do have quite a range of ages of women. So I forget what month she is. It's around November. July or August, is young Maddie, who was 13 at the time we took the photos. So she also had a Mark II Cortina. So we go from 13 to Fran, who I think is about 85 or 86 now. So we have all age groups. Predominantly it's around the 50-ish mark, because I think that's when women get the money to, invest in a classic. But
that's right. Yeah, my kids aren't a burden anymore. I'm getting the car that I've always wanted to have. Yeah.
Not that. Not the
exactly.
Taxi or Uber.
Or go back to the one you had when you were a teenager. A lot of it reminiscence for a lot of the ladies as well.
Yeah, that's right. I can imagine myself going back to a Valiant one day.
Yeah. Do you have to have a very reliable mechanic though? If you've got a classic car like that, that's obviously a challenge.
It's pretty important to have a mechanic you can trust, or a really reliable car like my Valiant, which I've hardly spent a cent on. Neither did I spend very much on my Cortina. I had a really old school mechanic, and he didn't add a percentage on just because it was a classic car, and he was very creative when he couldn't find parts. I remember once my indicator wand had broken, and he just knew that the ones from a Jeep in such and such a year would go straight onto the Cortina, you know. So yeah, maybe find an old school mechanic and just get trust. But you know, I'm always looking keen for women to tell me if they've had a good experience with mechanics so that I can recommend them, because people contact me all the time about that sort of thing.
Well, we have, again, on our social media, some of our lovely audiences sharing. Stacey had a powder blue two-door Toyota Corolla with fatter tyres.
Oh, the fat tyres,
yes.
the white walls.
And Jan had a Beetle bright green and a Porsche Carrera motor. Fancy. I had a Saab, actually, a red Saab. Called Cherry Bomb.
Cool.
Yeah,
nice
I
one.
loved that
Cherry
Saab.
Bomb. The names are great too, I must say. The names that people give their cars.
That's right. We have such emotional connection to our cars sometimes, don't we? Why is that?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think because they give us that freedom. They're just, you know, they're just like a partner. They, you know, you rely on them so much. For a long time, my classic was my daily ride. So she got me to work. She, you know, got me to shopping and all that sort of thing. And in the end, I kind of took a bit of pity on her driving through peak hour traffic, you know, going through the gears, stop, start. And I bought another little daily ride car. I've got a little Fiat 500 that is pretty zippy. I love her too.
Oh, I love it. You know your cars, Tracey. I do love it. Well,
I don't really. I don't really.
Sounds like you know
I know
what you're
more
talking about
possibly than kind of the average woman does, but I've got women that you know motors and all that sort of thing. My first boyfriend was a mechanic, an obsessed mechanic. His idea of a good weekend was going into his workshop, working on cars, having me there by his side to wash parts. And, you know, this I was only 15 at the time, mind you, 16 years old.
Gosh.
So, you know, that's kind of, I guess, where the love of cars and, you know, all that came about.
I do love that you went, you know what, I'm not sticking around as the girlfriend. I'm going to do it myself now. Thank you so much. Do check out the Facebook page, Old Girls on the Road. It's still super active if you want to engage with the classic car sort of culture and maybe get yourself one. It's a really beautiful resource and a gorgeous community there. Yeah. Thanks so much, Tracey.
That's okay, ladies. Thank you.
Thanks,
Broads,
Tracey.
I should say.
Yes.
Cheers. Bye.
See you.
Oh, Min, I'm just loving it. For someone who's had their car for 62 years, that's longer than a lot of marriages. So
That's, not doing too badly at all. But my favourite part of that, what Tracey said, was looking for the rat baggery in the other girl members. Yeah.
Absolutely. I celebrate rat baggery
that's
for
right.
sure. Well, we do speak with women from around the world already. This morning we've spoken with beautiful Rachel in Washington. I wanted to chat specifically with Dr. Nikki Stamp, who is one of only 11 female heart surgeons in the country. And she's also an author, and she's just released a memoir called Scrubbed, but she's in Perth. You're a Perth girl?
Perth girl, great city.
Yes, but you know that the time difference is pretty tricky for
bit prohibitive.
The east to the west coast. So that meant that in the end she wasn't able to join us live, and I was lucky enough to catch up with Nikki last week, one-on-one. Take a look. So I really loved your previous books, but they were sort of factual explorations on a theme. So you had Can You Die of a Broken Heart and you had Pretty Unhealthy, both really fascinating books with your extraordinary knowledge, you know, addressing some pretty important issues, right? But this time you've written a memoir and shared some very honest truths about your life as one of only 11 female heart surgeons in Australia. Which, I mean, I was shocked, firstly, to learn that there are only 11 female heart surgeons. Also shocked that it's not like Grey's Anatomy. and you're not shagging in cupboards whenever you get the chance.
Look, not to the best of my knowledge. I don't want to. I don't want to start rumours, but as far as I'm aware, that's not the case. I've been looking for McSteamy for years now, and nowhere.
We're all looking for McSteamy. but can you paint a picture for us as to what it's like working as a heart surgeon?
I guess if I had to compare it then to medical TV shows, because that's probably what most people are familiar with, aside from maybe contact that they've had themselves with the healthcare system, which, by and large for most people is probably with their general practitioner first and foremost. It's not as sexy or as glamorous as TV. It's not as exciting as TV. It's not as what's the word I'm looking for? When on the medical TV shows, the intern turns up on their first day and everything's amazing, and they're already these, highly trained, skilled surgeons already, and they do everything and they see everything and they know the answer to everything. It's nothing like that. In reality, it's I think it's a lot smoother. There's a lot less drama in the real world. There's a lot less kind of heroics. It's really a lot of quiet, steady achievement. And there's certainly a lot more hard work over a longer period of time rather than just turning up one day and finding yourself being amazing. That being said, I don't think it's any less interesting. I think that people's real stories and real experiences are just as interesting, if not more interesting, than the fiction that we've been taught for years.
So you're a heart surgeon. So my reaction to that is, firstly, it's extraordinary that you had this dream as an 8-year-old to become a doctor and you did it. Amazing. Then you chose to be a surgeon. That's next level. And then you chose to be a heart surgeon. I mean, I feel like you can't put yourself into a more stressful scenario than literally having someone's heart in your hands. You literally sit there with your heart, not sit there, but, in the book, you talk about holding someone's heart. Now, I'm assuming the world has a fascination with your profession. You often ask this question, what is that like?
Look, it's very cool, but I don't think heart surgery is unique in that regard. I think, one of the things that attracted me to medicine in the first place was the fact that the whole human body is just remarkable. Like, we are so cool. We really are. But yeah, there is something a little bit more, for me, fascinating about the heart. And there is a lot of mysticism and folklore and things that we're sort of brought up on that, we hear about the heart, and I think that makes it even more special. It feels like someone's very essence. But just from an intellectual point of view, the heart is so amazing. Like, it's very fragile. We have to take care of it. That's why we've got this massive big rib cage built to protect it. But, it's also incredibly robust and resilient at the same time. And that's really interesting to me. And every year, we're still learning things about the heart and the way it works, and the way disease affects it. And every year, every month, every week, there's something new to learn. And I really love that there's always some development that we haven't known before, that we're still learning about, even though our knowledge is already amazing. And every time I read something new, I'm always like, God, that's so cool.
I mean, obviously you're extremely skilled, and obviously you go through over a decade worth of training to be able to stand in that operating theatre and do what you do. But I also want to know, aside from the extraordinary training and how skilled you are, what kind of qualities do you need to be the kind of person that can, in that situation, very calmly handle that high pressure scenario?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that there are a lot of different qualities that people who want to be surgeons who are surgeons have, and you don't have to have all of them to be good at your job. I think one of the most important things is being insightful about yourself and what you can and can't do, knowing when you need help, and knowing when you don't know something and then going off and learning that. For me, that's a really important quality. I think you definitely need to be someone who is relatively calm under pressure, because sometimes when things go wrong, they can go wrong very quickly and very badly. So you need someone to be able to keep a level head. And that's not just the surgeon. We work in a team of about, in one heart surgery case, there can be up to about 10 people or more sometimes working for that one patient, when you have all the surgical staff, the anaesthetist, the nursing staff, a perfusionist who runs the heart-lung bypass machine. There's so many people involved. I think, though, one of the things that I find very important, and that is something that I've sort of learnt to value in some of my bosses and mentors over the years, is compassion, because you are going to work on what's a normal day, like it's just a routine heart surgery for us, but for someone else that's a huge day, right? And you need to be able to be compassionate towards that person and put that person's best interest at the center of what you do, in order to affect a good outcome. And I think that is probably one of the most important qualities that you could hope any medical professional has.
It's so interesting that you say that, because, and you make this point in the book, you know, as patients and families of patients, I would, my experience always has been of great kindness and compassion from the doctors that and nurses and all the medical staff that I've interacted with. But within your teams and the people that you work with, it is evident that actually the culture is not necessarily one of compassion, and that you speak of the huge egos and the bullying and the sexism and flat out sexual harassment that you are subjected to. So tell us a little bit about that kind of experience for you, because obviously it changes your whole experience of a job that you really loved.
Yeah, so I think that's very true. We have a lot of compassion for our patients, and I think that that is genuinely why people get into healthcare, whatever their profession, is around, helping other people. And I don't know when it comes to each other if we have complete fatigue, and we also lack a lot of compassion for ourselves. I mean, if I've had these moments where I've thought someone is being really hard on me, someone who's teaching me or training me or I'm working with, they're being really hard on me. And in some ways, that's nothing compared to how hard I am on myself. And yeah, it is a really curious juxtaposition where you have this profession that exists for the service of other people, and yet to one another we just can't seem to get it together. Not all the time, but yeah, I've had some really rough experiences throughout my career. I have had friends and colleagues who have had it a lot better, and I've had friends and colleagues who have had it a lot worse. And I think that there are so many factors at play, and part of writing this book was, I guess, an exploration of why those things happen. And one of the only things I can sort of come to the conclusion of is that you have a group of people who are, by and large, fairly, empathetic, there to do good in the world, and you put them in these incredibly high pressure situations, where they are responsible for other people's lives. They're working really long hours. They're working in a system that is often stretched. And we've certainly seen how bad that can get during COVID. You put them in those really difficult situations. You reward behaviours that probably shouldn't be rewarded. We reward confidence and overconfidence and arrogance as something to aspire to, rather than something that should, possibly be just kept under control. And we also, we have leadership and management that possibly isn't trained, equipped, or willing to create an environment where healthcare workers can flourish. And I think that over time that really erodes a lot of goodwill towards each other, and it's really heartbreaking.
Well, I mean, you spoke about, and recently we've seen other doctors, female doctors, speak openly about how it is an extremely, well, firstly, male-dominated industry, and also an industry in which women are treated really badly.
Yeah, look, and I can't really say it any other way, that, women are treated differently in medicine. And I don't want to say that there are all these terrible people, sitting around deliberately trying to make your life difficult. I think there is a really pervasive culture that exists in medicine, around women. And this is not just an opinion. This is not just people's stories. This really comes down to a really big body of research that demonstrates this, that women are definitely subjected to different conditions in the workplace. They're more likely to be sexually harassed. Their career path and their career trajectory is often stunted. They are less likely to reach, leadership positions, whether that be in academic medicine, so, becoming a professor or a dean of a school. They're less likely to be paid the same as the men. So there's all these different things. And like I say, a lot of these is around a pervasive culture where, women are inevitably, I suppose, disadvantaged in the system, and I think that is such a terrible waste because we will lose, and we do lose, so many talented female doctors in all different specialties. Surgery is particularly bad because it's particularly male dominated. But I think that the greater travesty is that for female patients, they're the ones who really lose out. And again, there is research to demonstrate that female patients may have better outcomes if they are treated by a female doctor. And that's not to say that there's, male doctors are worse and female doctors are better. It's not about that. It's more likely that women are able to perhaps relate to one another a little bit better, and they might pick up on different cues that otherwise might be missed, and that affects their outcomes. So it is a really terrible loss, and I think it's one that we should all be more vocal about.
Yeah, and I think, interestingly, I've read a little bit around, even particularly around heart disease and how women present differently when we have cardiac arrest or heart attack from men. And also that women are, we treated differently when we express, symptoms, not necessarily around heart, but generally speaking, I think that we're perhaps dismissed as hypochondriacs or overreacting or whatever it might be. And if there aren't other female doctors out there, is there a chance that that's one of the reasons why the outcome is poorer?
Yeah, it's possible. It could be one factor. With a lot of these things, there's a lot of issues that contribute to that. Women's heart disease is, something that I am very interested in and passionate about. And when it comes to women's heart disease, as you said, Jo, women present differently. And there are a whole bunch of things that lead to the fact that women have worse outcomes after a heart attack than men. And some of that is going to be around the way we interact with one another in the healthcare system. And women are, as I said, possibly more likely to pick up on some of these different cues. If you have women who are running research trials, they are more likely to recruit female patients into those trials, which gives us more information about the women who we really need to know more about how to treat their medical problems differently and better. So there's all these kinds of little, I suppose, points in the system that we can intervene on to try and improve the outcomes. But a lot of that is going to be contingent on having women in the healthcare system and in leadership positions. And it baffles me that we're in 2022 and we're still discussing this. I have a friend who I train with. He's 23, and I said to him one day, women do worse in healthcare systems. And he's 23, and he thought about it for about 20 seconds. He says, well, the answer's obvious. You put more women in leadership positions. I'm like, if my 23-year-old weightlifting mate can work that out, what the hell is everybody else doing? It's really an obvious solution.
It's almost as if there's no will to actually change that, Nikki, from the people who are holding the positions of power.
Possibly, and look, I get that. I get that. I'm not unsympathetic. Change is hard, but come on, we have the data. We know it's a problem. What's taking so long?
Yeah, and I know that you yourself are a leader. As far as gender equality in your industry is concerned, I know that you speak a lot around, working towards some more gender diversity, and also you speak to young girls and women. Is there a tension for you, knowing that you're hoping to get more girls to follow a pathway into medicine, knowing that it's not only the culture of gender inequality, but also the burnout and the conditions that you yourself experience? Is there a tension for you that you're asking girls then to step into the fray there?
Yeah, hugely. And I feel a little bit guilty about that. I have to say, it didn't kind of register for me that this was a problem until I was giving a talk one day, and I got asked a question by a female doctor in the audience, a junior doctor, who said, you know, what do we do if we're spoken to in this particular way by a consultant on a ward round? I was like, well, obviously you call it out. And she, a good on her for saying to me, are you an idiot? Like, you know, if I say something, I'm going to get in trouble. And it was just this light bulb moment where I was like, oh, yeah, it's actually really difficult to do in practice. And so, yeah, I do feel a little bit guilty. I guess the way I have kind of reconciled that is to make kind of a pledge or a promise, for want of a better term, to say that I don't think that this should discourage women from pursuing any career where it's male dominated and there are difficulties, because it's not just medicine, it's not just surgery. But I do think that for people like me, and particularly for the men who hold positions of power, they have an enormous responsibility to make sure that by the time those girls and women get there, they aren't subjected to the same things. So this is not about giving advice to those women coming through. They're not the ones who need the advice. The system needs to change.
Absolutely. Well, I really loved the book. I loved too that you start by dedicating the book to your patients and their loved ones, because you are at the coalface of every person's most vulnerable moment on the daily, right? Mm-hmm. And so I wonder, what is that relationship like, and what do you learn from these people who you obviously have great respect and affection for?
It's I'm not sure how to describe it. It's very special. It's very humbling. And I often look at these people who are facing, you know, really, difficult circumstances. And I sort of look at them and think, I'm not sure I could be as brave as you if I was in the same setting. So I'm always in awe of really how brave and resilient, and how they face sometimes incredible difficulty just head on, and they just get on with it. And I'm also always just blown away by how much trust people put in us. Because when you're on my side of the operating table, there is sometimes this moment where you're like, wow, this person really believes in me and trusts me. And I'm really, really grateful for that. But patients are at the heart of what we all do, and as they should be. And I'm really forever grateful for the lessons that they've taught me.
What sorts of lessons have they taught you?
I think about being brave, about being resilient. You know, that's actual bravery, what these guys have to go through. You know, I love talking to people. You know, I don't just try not to stroll in and just be like, you know, who are you? We're going to do this. All right, see you later. Learn about their lives and learn about different points of view, and that's okay to be to be different and have different lifestyles. I've learned a lot about, you know, trying to talk to people in a fashion that is respectful and human, and you know, it's very easy to kind of dictate to people, but it's, you know, it doesn't work. Just, I mean, so many different things. I just, you know, take away something from every interaction.
Well, we're grateful to you for the incredible skill that you bring to your job. I mean, I've never had heart surgery, nor have I had anyone in my close circle have heart surgery. But any kind of medical professional that comes into my world, I'm just astounded by the great care and compassion we have here. So we're very lucky to have you. Nikki, thanks so much for the book too. It's really, I tell you what, I did spend a lot of my time going, oh my God, when I read it, just because of what you do every day. It's fantastic. Yeah. Do get the book. It's called Scrubbed. I really loved it. And all the best on, I know you've stepped away largely from being in hospitals. So I look forward to see what you do next in your career.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for the kind words. Really appreciate it.
Min, thank you so much for joining us on our very first show in BRHQ, our home.
At BRHQ. It's such a pleasure to be on Broad Radio and in the new HQ. It's fabulous.
You helped me pop our cherry.
The pleasure's been mine.
We will get you back on Broad Radio, and we'll be back with Broad Radio next Tuesday. We'll see you then.